Hi, my name is Chuang Chuen and this is my story. Hi, I'm Chuang Chuen and today I would like to share with you on my journey of faith and how the Holy Spirit guided me to come back to church. So I was born into a family of Christians and since young I attended services at True Jesus Church. But my church attendance became less frequent when I was 12 years old due to what was happening in school. I was actually bullied for having an overbite and my schoolmates made fun of me due to my name too. So because of that, I became a very bitter and angry teenager with a lot of bitterness in my heart. Back in church, I felt that my friends were having very smooth sailing lives and had no social issues like I did. And so it discouraged me from interacting with them, thinking that they could never relate to me, nor understand what I was going through. So as I was struggling with friends in school and church, I started finding friendship elsewhere. Unlike how I felt towards my church friends, I felt closer and a certain amount of kinship to some older teenagers that live in my neighborhood then. So we bonded quite easily because we shared the same outlook in life and I felt we could relate to one another. Generally, looking back, I think we were all very unhappy with society in our own ways. So while I had gained their friendship, I also started picking up a lot of their bad habits as well. So some of them were gang members and most of them were smokers or drinkers. So over time, I started to pick up a lot of these vices as well. My attendance in school became worse. So I remember skipping school just to hang out at internet cafes. So I eventually dropped out of school at 13 years old as well. And that was also when I stopped going to church entirely. Since I was not in school, I was doing odd jobs at places who were willing to hire someone with just a PSLE certification. But the money that I had, that I earned from these odd jobs, were only used to sustain my bad habits like smoking and drinking. So this rebellious lifestyle ultimately led to legal consequences where I had to attend reformative programs. So the people who attended these programs with me often came from broken families where in some cases they were even abused by their parents. There was an incident that that stuck with me. So I used to follow somebody that I know to Geylang as he worked there as a dealer for all these gambling dens. So I remember seeing a child who was maybe just 10 years old selling cigarettes under the supervision of what appeared to be his father. At that point, I was very saddened and I doubted if God was truly love, because if He truly is love, why is there so much suffering and injustice in the world? So my doubts against God only built up and made me more reluctant to return to church. After leaving church, mixing around with companions that had bad habits and picking up their habits, dropping out of school, at one point I really felt guilty towards my parents as they were constantly worried about me. It was definitely made worse when I had to go through these reformative programs. So this guilt that I felt really motivated me to turn my life around and try to start over again. So I signed up for the O-levels as a private candidate and decided to return to church. By this time, I was already 21 years old and I remember feeling very embarrassed to be taking my O-levels at that age. And I think this feeling that I had led to some inferiority complex as well. So I built walls around myself and this made the return back to church more stressful than it should have been. And I left after a while. I even swore to myself that I wouldn't go back to church again. So during my second semester of my year 1 in Polytechnic, I started having very severe anxiety. So I tried various methods to cope, from drinking, exercising, listening to music, but none of them really brought me the comfort that I wanted. In Singapore, we currently have 4 churches. So the one I attend being Teluk Kurau, and we have another relatively big church at Adam Road. So coincidentally, when I was facing these issues, there was also a spiritual convocation at the end of that year in Adam. And I decided to go for it. And thank God I was able to really feel peace during the services. So this motivated me to start attending church services there. And I made a promise to God back then that if He cured me of my afflictions, I would start attending church more regularly and strive to serve Him. I eventually made a recovery from my condition, but after receiving treatment and life was good once again, I went on to study in university, but I did continue going to church, but the attendance stopped to like once per week. And I also stopped going for like Bible study classes. Instead, I spent most of my free time like pursuing my own interests. So the promise I made to God back then at the spiritual convocation became a distant memory until 4 years later when I attended another spiritual convocation held in the middle of the year. So for some reason, I decided to stay for most of the services that year. And the spiritual convocation in our church, there is usually a mix of sermons and prayer sessions. So during these prayer sessions, ministers will often encourage us to pray for the Holy Spirit, or the infilling of the Holy Spirit. So I remember when I was much younger, my church teachers would usually tell us the same thing. So I did attempt to pray for the Holy Spirit, although I did not receive Him. Because when I was rather young, I did not understand the importance of praying for the Holy Spirit and only prayed for it as I was instructed to do so. So during one of the prayers for the Holy Spirit at this mid-year convocation, I started reflecting on my promise to God that I would attend church more regularly if He healed me, and felt a sense of guilt. During the prayer sessions, I prayed to God for the strength to hold on to Him. So in one of these prayers, I felt my tongue roll, which was one of the signs of the Holy Spirit. But I had my doubts on whether I had received Him, as I felt that I was not deserving of this gift. So I continued to doubt even after the church ministers had confirmed that I had indeed received the Holy Spirit. So it was hard to believe that even for someone like me who had left church, done many bad things and was ungrateful to God's grace, could receive the Holy Spirit. I felt that I had not done anything amazing that made me deserving of receiving this like precious gift from God. So God did not come to me in like big visions or through big miracles, but He came to me when I asked for strength to hold on to Him. So I consulted the ministers and they were very encouraging. They advised me saying that when one receives the Holy Spirit, they would know it best themselves. So this helped me to accept the fact that God had really given me the Holy Spirit. And since then, over time, with constant spiritual nurture, I came to realize like how helpful the Holy Spirit has been in my life. So the Holy Spirit helps me feel a lot closer to God. And this can be felt through my prayers. Prayers do not feel as long as they did before, and even became like more enjoyable. I also started to become more sensitive to sin and the gentle rebukes when I made a mistake or am tempted to sin. So I would say that the Holy Spirit was very helpful in helping me to lead a less sinful life. Through my experience, I learned that the temptations from the world can be very strong, especially when you are facing trials in life. So I felt a sense of comfort back then when I picked up all these various vices. And I also decided to leave the church back then as I wanted to feel accepted and believe that the world could actually bring me more joy than God could. However, these were the wrong choices I made, and of course, I had to face the consequences. We need to understand that the pleasures from this world are fleeting, and it's not able to feel this emptiness that I believe we all feel to some extent. So instead, we should turn to God to experience the joy that He can provide for us by drawing closer to Him. The Holy Spirit can be your guide and your source of comfort in every trial. I would like to encourage everyone to continue to believe in God's promise of the Holy Spirit, even if you may feel undeserving or unworthy of His love and grace. He is merciful to all of us. Yep.